The unseen war, God answers in your darkest hour. What if your toughest battle, the one that keeps you awake at night, isn't a dead end? What if it is actually a direct line to divine intervention? We're talking about those moments, the diagnosis that changed everything, the financial strain that feels suffocating, the relationship splintering into 1,000 pieces. You are fighting a war. But do you know who is really on your side? Dive into Psalm 20, and you'll find a radical truth, a powerful declaration that shatters our preconceived notions of strength. It starts with a cry, not of despair, but of profound confidence. May the Lord answer you in the day of trouble. May the name of the God of Jacob protect you. Psalm 20:1, ESV. Think about that phrase. The day of trouble. It is not some vague future hope. It's for faith's moment right now, when the ground feels like it is shifting beneath your feet, when the walls are closing in, when you're cornered by circumstances you never asked for. This isn't a God who waits for you to get it all together. He steps into your chaos. He meets you right there, and why the God of Jacob? Jacob's life was a masterclass in struggle and grace. Deception, exile, fear, wrestling with God himself. If God could be faithful to someone as flawed, as broken, as complicated as Jacob, then what does that say about his faithfulness to you? It means no matter your past, no matter your mistakes, his nature is to engage, to wrestle with you, and to remain faithful through it all. Then David, the psalmist, continues, may he send you help from the sanctuary and give you support from Zion. Psalm 20:2, ESV. This isn't human help. This isn't a friend with advice or a bank loan or a self-help book. This is help from the sanctuary. This is support from Zion. Picture it, the sanctuary, God's dwelling place, where heaven touches earth. Zion, the seat of his sovereign power. These aren't distant concepts. They're a vivid picture of divine intervention, help that comes not from what you can muster, but from the very throne room of God. It means his grace isn't far off. It's near. His power isn't theoretical. It's active. Our natural instinct in trouble is to double down, to try harder, to fix it ourselves. We plan, we strategize, we try to muscle through, but Psalm 20 dares us to do something different. It challenges us to surrender that control, to admit that our strongest hands are not our own, but God's. When you cry out to him, you're not shouting into a void. You're speaking to the creator of the universe, the one who commands angels, the one who calms storms, the one who heals shattered hearts. So, what burden are you carrying that feels too heavy right now? Where are you longing for an answer? A breakthrough, or just a sense of peace? Are you still trying to solve it all on your own? Or are you ready to cry out to the God of Jacob, the God who answers in the day of trouble? Are you ready to admit that his help from the sanctuary is the only help that truly matters? The echo of sacrifice. Does God really see what you've given? You've poured out your heart. You've given your all. You've made sacrifices that no one else saw. Did it even matter? Did God notice? Did he care? In the quiet of the night, when you whispered those desperate prayers, when you gave up something precious for his sake, did it simply fade into the silence, or did it echo in the heavens? Psalm 20 speaks directly to this vulnerability. It says, may he remember all your offerings and regard with favor your burnt sacrifices. Psalm 20:3 ESV. Imagine the Israelites, their king preparing for battle. The sacrifices have been made, the prayers lifted. Every offering wasn't just a ritual, it was an act of trust, a profound belief that the God of heaven sees their faithfulness and will respond with his power. This is the God who remembers. He doesn't forget. He sees every act of surrender, every step of obedience, every sacrifice made in faith. Nothing offered to God in faith is ever wasted. He treasures it, he honors it, and he responds in ways that will astound you. But let's bring it closer to home. What about the times you've given something up for God? Maybe it was staying faithful to his call in the face of opposition. Maybe it was giving generously when your finances were tight. Perhaps it was showing kindness to someone who didn't deserve it. Have you ever wrestled with the silence, asking if God noticed? Psalm the 20th of December lares unequivocally that he fay does fay. Then comes a verse that almost feels too good to be true. May he grant you your heart's desire and fulfill all your plans. Psalm 20:4 ESV at first glance. This sounds like a cosmic blank check, right? Dreams coming true, plans succeeding. But this is more than a simple wish list. This is a prayer for alignment. It's a blessing that God would shape your deepest desires to reflect his will, and then bring them to fruition in his perfect timing. Think about the desires of your own heart. Perhaps you've longed for a specific breakthrough, a new opportunity, a restored relationship, healing in a place of deep pain. You've prayed, you've waited, and maybe you've wrestled with doubt. God, do you see my heart? Do you care about what I'm longing for? Psalm 20 meets you in that exact space, reminding you that God not only sees your desires, but he is actively at work in them. But here's the challenge. What happens when the waiting feels endless, or when the answer isn't what we hoped for? These moments test our faith in crushing ways, like Abraham waiting for Isaac, like Hannah pouring out her soul for a child. We learn that trusting God means surrendering the how and when of his will, while clinging to the unshakable truth that he is good. His faithfulness to remember our sacrifices invites us to reflect on the nature of our desires. Are we seeking things that align with his heart, or clinging to plans rooted in self-interest? The beauty of surrender is that as we align our hearts with God's will, our desires begin to shift. They take on an eternal perspective, centered on his purposes, not just our preferences. So what does this mean for you today? It means trusting God with both the big dreams and the small, unseen sacrifices. It means believing that he remembers every tear you've shed, every step of faith you've taken, and every prayer whispered in the dark. And it means surrendering the outcomes to him, knowing that his plans are infinitely better than anything you could imagine for yourself. Are you trusting God to remember your sacrifices, even when you can't see the immediate results? Are you aligning your desires with his will, or are you holding on to plans that might not be his best for you? And are you finding peace in the assurance that the God who remembers is also the God who fulfills? The battle cry, celebrate your victory before it even arrives. What if I told you to celebrate your victory, before the battle even starts, to raise your banner high, declaring triumph, even as the enemy is still gathering at the gates? Sounds crazy, right? Counter-intuitive to everything we've been taught about waiting for proof. But this isn't about human logic. This is about divine confidence. The battlefield stretches before you, not with swords and shields, but with the raw weight of life's fiercest struggles. A crushing diagnosis, a betrayal you didn't see coming, the paralyzing fear of what tomorrow holds. You haven't seen the breakthrough. You haven't heard the all clear. But here, in the tension between hope and despair, Psalm 20 calls you to do something extraordinary. Celebrate faith. May we shout for joy over your salvation, and in the name of our God set up our banners. Psalm 20:5 ESV. These aren't timid words, they are bold, joyful, overflowing with an almost defiant confidence. Imagine an army raising its banners high, proclaiming victory before the first blow is struck. That is the picture David gives us. Celebrating salvation, even while the fight rages on. Think about the last time you faced a challenge so overwhelming that it took everything in you just to get through the day. Maybe you cried out to God, hoping for deliverance, but struggling to truly believe it would come. Psalm 20 invites you to shift your perspective. Instead of waiting for the victory to be won before you celebrate, it calls you to lift your voice, to shout for joy over a salvation that is already in motion, even if you can't yet see it. The phrase, shout for joy, is electric. It is not passive. It is not restrained. It is a full-throated declaration of faith. It is the kind of joy that bursts forth from someone who knows the fight isn't theirs alone, that the God who created the heavens is already at work, bringing deliverance in ways they can't even imagine. And then there's the banner. In the name of our God, set up our banners. In ancient times, a banner wasn't just a decorative flag, it was a symbol of identity, a declaration of allegiance. It proclaimed who you belonged to and under whose authority you fought. To set up a banner in the name of God is to boldly declare, "This battle belongs to the Lord." Now bring it into your life. What would it look like to set up a banner of faith in the middle of your own struggle? Maybe it's holding on to God's promises when everything else says to give up. Maybe it's sharing your testimony of God's goodness, even when the outcome feels uncertain. Perhaps it's singing praises through tears, proclaiming that He is faithful, even in the storm. David's confidence grows even stronger. Now I know that the Lord saves His anointed. He will answer him from His holy heaven with the saving might of His right hand. Psalm 20-6, ESV. Notice the shift. This isn't just hope, it's certainty. Now I know. David speaks as though the victory has already been delivered. The anointed here points to David as God's chosen king, but it also powerfully foreshadows Jesus, the ultimate anointed one. For David, the assurance was that God would save His anointed king, and through that victory, deliver His people. For Faye, the assurance is even greater. Through Jesus, the battle has already been won. The cross and the empty tomb declare a victory that nothing in this world can overturn. But what does that mean for the battles you face now? It means that no matter how overwhelming the fight feels, you can trust that God's power is greater. David speaks of the saving might of His right-hand a phrase that evokes the raw strength and authority of God. This is the same right hand that parted the Red Sea, the same hand that defeated Goliath with a single stone, the same hand that raised Jesus from the dead. So, what battle are you facing right now? What would it look like to shout for joy over your salvation, even if the deliverance isn't yet visible? What would it mean to set up a banner of faith, declaring that your hope is in God alone? This isn't just ancient poetry. It's a blueprint for living with bold, unwavering trust in God's power. Are you ready to celebrate before the victory, knowing that He fights for you? The true strength, while your fortress might be a house of cards, the world offers alluring solutions, powerful solutions: money, influence, education, social status, your own sheer willpower. It's tempting, isn't it, to cling to the tangible, to believe that these chariots and horses, the modern symbols of power and security, can save the day. But then comes David's defiant declaration, cutting through all the noise. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. Psalm 20-7, ESV. These words aren't just poetic. They're a challenge. They dare us to look past the shiny, seemingly powerful solutions the world offers and fix our eyes on the one who holds all power. Imagine David standing with his men on the eve of battle. Nations around him boast armies brimming with chariots and horses, the most advanced weaponry of the time. To an outsider, these nations seem invincible. But David knows better. He has witnessed the futility of trusting in human strength. He remembers the walls of Jericho falling with a shout, Gideon's 300 defeating an army of thousands, a young shepherd boy defeating a giant with a single stone. David's confidence wasn't born out of naivety, it was forged in the fires of experience. So, he declares with absolute certainty, "We trust in the name of the Lord our God." But what does it mean to trust in God's name? In Scripture, God's name represents His character, His promises, and His authority. To trust in His name is to trust in Who. He is the faithful provider, the righteous judge, the unchanging rock, the compassionate Father. It is not a vague hope, it's a deeply personal reliance on the God who has proven Himself time and again. Now, let's bring this into your own life. Think about the chariots and horses you've been tempted to trust. Maybe it's your career phase, something you've poured everything into, believing it will secure your future, or perhaps it's your bank account, your education, your social status, even your own abilities. These aren't inherently bad things, but they become dangerous when we place our ultimate trust in them. Consider the times when those chariots and horses failed you, the job that was supposed to bring stability but left you feeling empty, the savings account that was drained by an unexpected crisis, the relationship you thought was unshakable but crumbled under pressure. These moments remind us of the limits of human strength and the fleeting nature of worldly security. But what does it look like to trust in God's name instead? It looks like the single mother overwhelmed by bills, choosing to pray instead of panic. It looks like the cancer patient surrounded by medical uncertainty, lifting their hands in worship. It looks like the young graduate stepping into an unknown future, declaring, "God, I trust you, even when I can't see the way forward." David's next words drive the point home. They collapse and fall, but we rise and stand upright. Psalm 22:8 ESV. They in this verse refers to those who trust in chariots and horses, in human strength and temporary solutions. Their collapse isn't a matter of but when chariots break, horses tire, even the strongest fortresses crumble. But those who trust in the Lord, they rise, they stand upright, This isn't about avoiding the fall, it is about enduring it with strength that comes from beyond ourselves. It's about rising from the ashes of defeat because we are upheld by the God who never fails. What chariots and horses are you clinging to right now? What fleeting securities are you relying on instead of the unshakable strength of God? Will you trade temporary comfort for eternal resilience? It's a choice we make every single day. And when you choose Him, you don't just survive. You rise, you stand upright, victorious through His power, the royal intercession. Who do you call when all hope is lost? The battle hasn't even started, but the tension in the air feels like a storm about to break. The king stands tall, but you can see the weight of leadership etched on his face. The army is assembled, the people are gathered, young and old, families and warriors. All eyes lift toward heaven. Then the cry begins to rise, not in fear, but in faith. O Lord, save the King. May He answer us when we call. Psalm 20:9 ESV. This is no ordinary prayer. It is the collective plea of a people who know that their strength, no matter how great, isn't enough. They aren't relying on the size of their army or the sharpness of their swords. Their hope rests on one thing alone, the intervention of God. It is a cry that acknowledges their dependence, not just for the king's safety, but for their own survival. Now bring this moment into your life. Think of a time when the stakes were unbelievably high and the outcome was uncertain. Maybe it was a critical diagnosis, a sudden financial crisis, or a loved one's life hanging in the balance. You prayed, not with polished words, but with raw desperation. God, please show up. Do what only you can do. Psalm 20 gives voice to those moments, a cry for salvation, not as a last resort, but as a faith-first response. Faith for the people of Israel. This wasn't just a prayer for their leader, it was a prayer for themselves. The king's victory meant their victory, his defeat, their defeat. They understood that their fates were intertwined, and so they prayed with unity and urgency. This communal aspect of the psalm reminds us of the profound power of standing together in faith, lifting each other up when the battles of life feel overwhelming. O Lord, save the King. This cry acknowledges something we often forget. Even leaders need saving, whether it is a political figure, a pastor, a parent, or a friend we look up to. Those in positions of influence often bear unseen burdens. This verse challenges us to pray for the leaders in our lives, not just for their success, but for their salvation, their wisdom, and their strength to lead well. And what about our ultimate King, Jesus Christ? For believers, this prayer takes on an even deeper significance. While David was the anointed king of Israel, Jesus is the King of Kings, the fulfillment of all God's covenant promises. O Lord, save the King becomes a cry of worship and gratitude, a reminder that our salvation is already secured through Christ's victory on the cross. He has already won the war for your soul. He has already defeated death and sin. He is the reason we can approach God's throne with confidence, even in our darkest hour. But let's not rush past the personal weight of this verse. When the psalmist says, "May he answer us when we call," it's a plea wrapped in confidence. It is not a question of faith God will answer, but a declaration that he hears, that he responds. Think of the moments when you've called out to God, when the walls seemed to close in and there was no way forward. Maybe the answer didn't come the way you expected, but you saw his hand guiding, providing, and sustaining you. There's power in this kind of prayer because it's rooted in trust, not in specific outcomes, but in the unchanging character of God. It's the kind of trust that says, even if the victory doesn't look the way I imagined, I know you are working, God. Who in your life needs this kind of prayer right now? A friend battling illness, a leader making tough decisions, a family member facing an uncertain future. Psalm 20 invites us to step into that space of intercession, crying out to God on their behalf. This verse also speaks to the importance of collective faith. In a world that often emphasizes individualism, Psalm 20 reminds us of the strength found in community. When we pray together, when we unite our voices in faith, we reflect the heart of a God who calls us to bear one another's burdens. So, what does this mean for you today? It means no battle is fought alone. It means that when we cry out to God, whether in solitude or with others, He hears us. It means that salvation isn't just a distant hope, it's a present reality, secured through Jesus and made tangible through the power of prayer. Are you ready to cry out to God with boldness and trust? Are you ready to lift up others in prayer, knowing that our King answers when we call?